Are we recording now?
Yes.
You're blocked. I'm blocked.
Good to go. So the concept that I read, actually 2 articles about, was called coherence. And the article itself was called the coherence principle because it was largely based on, the coherence premium, because it was largely based on the idea that if companies are coherent, which I'll explain a little bit, that there's actually a premium that they can command in terms of pricing and value that they add to a market, which means overall they're going to be more successful. So the reason I really liked it, and I'll come back to it at the very end, was the application possible when thinking about it not just in an organizational context, but also in an individual context. And so the general idea of coherence is that there's an alignment between what the company is trying to create in terms of value in a market and the core capabilities that a company has. And so if those 2 things are in alignment, generally if your strategy aligns those 2 things, then you have coherence, so to speak. So the main concepts that the authors talk about is first the way to play, or the idea of being really clear as an organization what the specific value proposition is that you're providing a market. So for example, Walmart is able to provide a lot of products at really low prices to consumers all over the world. And so the value they're providing is that of a low-cost provider. And so the other piece that they talk about in the article is this idea of capabilities. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail later, but capabilities are you can generally think of them as strengths or things that the company does well. The biggest difference between capabilities, as the authors talk about it, and strengths is that one of the biggest measures of importance or impact of capabilities is not just how they operate in isolation, but rather how they operate together. So again, we've got the idea of how the company creates value in the marketplace. We have coherence, whether or not they're aligned. And the other interesting thing that comes up is once a company actually really understands what their core capabilities are, the immediate question that surfaces is, we have these markets that we're working with right now, where else can we use these capabilities? And so it starts to bring up the ideas of innovation or market expansion, acquisitions, that sort of thing. So diving into capabilities a little bit more, again, you can think about the collection of capabilities almost the same way that you'd think about a stool, whereby if you take one away, you're not just removing one, you're compromising the stability of the entire capability set. And so to use a specific example, if we think about Walmart, the authors cite Walmart's capabilities as being expert point of sale analytics, aggressive vendor management, superior logistics, and rigorous working capital management. So thinking about that, what that allows Walmart to do is if I'm a customer and I pull a product off of Walmart's shelf and I take it to the till, I ring that through, Walmart instantly knows that I've bought that, and that information feeds to not only their systems to figure out what kinds of products are being bought so they can track customer trends, it also feeds to their suppliers' information systems to then trigger the purchase of more goods. And what's unique about Walmart is because they're able to respond as quickly as they do, what they end up with is the ability to match customer trends really, really quickly and lower their costs of inventory and accounts payable because they're not over-ordering or under-ordering any of their products. Obviously, from a customer standpoint, this works really well because popular products are going to be on the shelves. You're not likely going to see them sold out. And so thinking about, back to the stool analogy, if you were to remove any one of those elements, let's say, for example, Walmart wasn't as rigorous with their vendor management, all of a sudden you've now got a situation where Walmart can't offer customers the same low prices that they do, or they can't demand that suppliers submit goods as fast as they otherwise would, which means now products are missing off the shelves. Same thing with data analytics. Without the speed of the analytics that they've got, they can't feed the information to suppliers. You end up with a similar situation. So again, it's that idea of not just the one capability and thinking about strengths in isolation, but rather thinking about them as a holistic asset that the company has. So the immediate thought that I had was a lot of companies to some degree will have capabilities, but the biggest question is how well do they actually know what those capabilities are? Because oftentimes companies may know their strengths, they may not actually understand the capabilities that they have that are going to allow them to perform, or rather outperform, their competitors. So the immediate question that I sort of came to at the end of it was, how well do we as individuals know our own capabilities? And this is where things like assessment tests can be helpful, and I think are often poorly used because most people are looking to get answers as opposed to gain insight in understanding themselves and their own capabilities. So,
Thank you, Mark. I'm glad you tied it back at the end to yourself. I'm wondering if you're able to identify whether you have coherence with your strengths.
yeah, it's short answer, not yet. It's definitely something I'm working on, and it's been really beneficial, largely because as I better understand the specific capabilities that I have, I'm no longer looking at a job market per se saying what kind of, or how do I work for this company. I'm instead saying this is what I can bring to the market, what kind of company can use this, what kind of customers can I best serve. And so it provides me with a lot more flexibility and a much better understanding of the type of work that I would actually find not only meaningful, but the stuff that I'd be good at.
Now, that sounds like tough work. Do you think that organizations that have been doing what they've been doing well for a long time are able to take this on, and how would you best recommend them they do that?
So it's definitely tough work, largely because capabilities are best looked at as things that you can do better than anybody else. That's the goal. If you're not able to do it better than anybody else, then you're not going to be able to command what the authors would call the coherence premium. And so it's definitely hard work. At the same time, it's worth, for organizations that are interested, I think it's actually worth reading both the articles, potentially some of the books, to get a better understanding of how you might go about identifying what specific capabilities your company currently has and which ones are missing as you understand the value that you're trying to provide to the market.
That's great. Thank you.
Not a problem.